I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, and the time is 5:30. Item 2, presentations. A, Internal Audit Department Quarterly Board Update. Ms. Shoesmith.
Good evening, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, and executive staff and guests. Tonight I present to you our quarterly update of the audit work that my team and I have completed since our last update, which was way back in August. 3 months has gone by quick, August 7th. Over the past 3 months, my team and I have completed 6 audits, 5 unannounced campus cash counts and safe inventories. As well, we have received 4 hotline complaints while monitoring our internal audit fraud hotline. Over the past 3 months, I've provided each of you with these reports periodically via email, and then you've received a list of the completed audits that are up for discussion this evening. And I'm just like I have in the past, I've notated those that I think we can, I can answer questions here in open session easily. There's a handful, or about half of them, that if you do have questions, I think it best that we go into executive session to discuss those. And then as well, like we've done in the past, I'm happy to discuss any current work that we're working on, what we have in the future as well. So I don't know if we want to just start at the top and go through. Sure. So first on the list, superintendent contract, compensation, and business expenses for fiscal year 2023. You have any questions about that report?
Does anyone have any questions about that one?
Pretty straightforward, good results. The second one on the list, again, I feel more comfortable talking about that in executive session,
Okay.
so we'll just skip through that for now.
Sure.
Or I guess we could, if there are questions, so we know ahead of time. I'm not sure if anybody, has questions, so we'll know when we go back there. Or we want to talk about it? Sure. That's what I figured, no worries. Third one in line is the purchasing card program, that audit we do every year, reviewing the entire district's purchasing card program. So the report there, again, for fiscal year 2023. Any questions on that one? I think it's easy to discuss out here.
Not necessarily a question,
Sure.
but just more of a comment that it looks like some things that were implemented last year, I think, made that
Most
report.
definitely. I think I see, we saw some good improvements
Yeah.
in a lot of areas, and a couple of areas with a little bit of room for improvement, some
Sure.
shuffling there. It's an ever-growing portion of our expenditures. It was close to 43,000 transactions last year, almost 7 million. So just the sheer volume there, we're going to see those errors. But I think in general, the overall sense is yes, improvements, better in the area of approvals, allowable expenditures, things like that.
Yep.
That's my overall take.
Any other questions about that one?
Okay.
Okay. Next.
Number 4, Jackson Middle School. This was a campus audit due to principal change of key personnel. Standard campus audit. Any questions on that one?
Questions on that one?
One,
Sure.
Madam President, the 29% no documentation, that seems a little high. Is that part of that turnover and just them learning the system, the process? Just saying 29% didn't have the required documentation scanned.
For it being not scanned.
Is that that seemed kind of like a little bit of a high number. I don't know if that's normal or not. Or just
I'd
new.
say specifically to scanning, I know this was a discussion previous, maybe not last time, but in the past, we've talked about scanning into DocuWare. That is an ongoing progression. People are improving in that area. On that note, we've also talked in the past that way in the past was not documented in any criteria or policy requiring the scanning. Historically, the requirement was only to keep documentation and retain it. More and more, our procurement department, our budget and finance department are adding that verbiage as far as the requirement of scanning into our criteria and documentation. So you will see us more and more noting that because there is that policy there. 29%, I'd say it's pretty average for the amount of times we see folks do not scan. They have the documentation, but they just haven't scanned it. Pretty standard, yeah. Okay. The next two, I definitely think we should discuss back in executive session. So I go on to the continuous monitoring part. Sure. Just a quick blurb about our cash counts. Let me get to my tab here. We completed 5 unannounced cash counts, 1 at a high school, 1 middle school, and 3 elementary schools. In all, pretty good results. Couple of items that aren't supposed to be in the safe, but easily they were just there because they didn't have another place to keep them. They needed to go ahead and return it to someone or find the proper lost and found person or deposit the money. They're just it was stuck in the safe just waiting to know what to do with it. One instance where there was some PTA money from a fundraiser that was from the night before. Our campuses are not allowed to hold any PTA money on campus in any of our safes, drawers, anything. That is not our money, and it needs to go home with the PTA parent or go to a night deposit at their bank or whatever. Very often, or very frequent, the times that we do see it, it's pretty infrequent. It's these cases where it's like the night before they had a greenback night, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and it's a lot to count, and they say, can we please just put it in your safe? We'll come back tomorrow, to count it. But we let them know they needed to come pick that up and count it and take it to their bank and deposit. But just some general things, nothing too scary. Pretty good results overall. And again, we went at targeted times. Like to go on a Monday, for example, when their safe should be nice and empty, or after a holiday. So, the hotline monitoring, we had 4 complaints come in. Again, we can talk if you have questions, want to know a little bit more about them. I'm happy to discuss. But 3 of them I looked into. One was inactionable. It was too vague. Nothing really came of them, no big investigation or anything, but I did have some results and some findings from my work, so we can talk about that. And that's it on that section. Do you want me to go ahead and just talk about what we have in progress right now, and then we go back? Currently, we're working on 3 different projects. We're doing a cost analysis of utilities, essentially specifically looking at our after-hours usage of our HVAC units, with rising expenditures, looking at costs every way we can, looking to save money. That's something that was a request from executive staff to look at that and see if we could find any overspending, wasteful spending, just data analysis on that area. So we're working on that. We're also doing a travel audit, looking at travel expenditures historically last fiscal year, as well as reimbursements to employees for travel. Assuring, again, trying through the lens of wasteful spending, or if there are outliers there that tend to be traveling a huge amount of time, spending a lot of money, or spending funds that they shouldn't when they're traveling. So we're reviewing that currently. And then lastly, looking at Legacy High School, again, change of key personnel there. Just started that right before the break, so it's ongoing currently right now. Those are the 3. And then just in the future, CRMS, our inventory, our big, huge, where we go all around the entire district and look at all of our inventory, do a good review of that, and as well as continuous campus audits that'll get us through to early spring. So that's on the horizon.
So now we will adjourn into executive session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. and the time is 5:40. board will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 6:17. Item 5, board business. A, discussion and possible action regarding filing board vacancy in single-member District 2. We had someone sign up to speak to this agenda item. At this time, the board will receive comments from those individuals who signed up to speak to the specific agenda item. Speakers will be called up to speak in the order in which they appear on the sign-in sheet and to the item that they signed up to speak to. Speakers should limit their comments to the specific agenda item for which they signed up. Please remember that this is a business meeting of the board. Any person or group engaging in outbursts of any kind causing a disruption to the meeting will be warned, and if they persist, will be removed from the meeting. This is to ensure that all speakers have an opportunity to make comments without interruption, and that the board members are able to pay full attention to speakers without any distractions. Ms. Huey.
Number 1. My name is Deborah Parrish. Good evening, Madam President, board members, executive staff, and guests. I would like to pray about the upcoming discussion. Dear God, you have been present during all discussions on this topic. There has been much tension on the topic. Please guide this evening's discussion to the result that is best for Northeast Independent School District students and staff. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Byer, you had requested this agenda item, so I'm going to let you speak to it first.
Yeah, and I think if everybody's good, I assume we go the motion, second discussion, and we can go that route if we get to that point. But I thought this was important to bring back up again and have an open discussion about it, and see if we can't come to consensus about filling this vacant seat. And so in that, what I'd like to do is make a motion to appoint Nan Ritchie to the single-member District 2 seat.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Do we need to have discussion
Oh,
first?
sure, sorry, forget about
I'd like
that.
to
Discussion.
So I've brought Ms. Ritchie's name before, and after looking at the interviews again, I have a very good sense that she will listen to the community. I think she'll be objective in her statements or her decisions. I think she's eager to serve the students, the staff, and the stakeholders in that community with enthusiasm. I think will have some pride in that community. She has a public and private mix in her background, especially at the state level. So I think she could understand the processes when it comes to our kind of local government, including budget, with her experience in the comptroller's office. I think she can think big. I think she can look at things in a way that if we do run into roadblocks or hurdles, I think she can look for the opportunity. As a matter of fact, I think, said that in her interview at one point about rather than looking at the disadvantages, let's look at the opportunities that might exist that we can get to. She talked about appreciating parents who are engaged in our district, and I think she also rightfully is concerned about the adequate resources that exist throughout our district and getting them to the kids that need them and helping to support the kids that are continuing to use the resources we had. So, the concerns that came up about her potential conflict of interest with the lobbying, I think were addressed, I think, by her own email. She expressed that if she were to be appointed, that there would be no issue with that. So taking her at her word, we all, I personally have to recuse myself at times because of potential conflicts, and so I think that's appropriate as a sitting board member. So anyway, I would be happy to have her as a colleague, and I'd like to hear any other further discussion.
Okay, other discussion?
I would like to ask one question. See, because this is really, we are a constitutional republic. That seat belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to us. God rest her soul, it did not belong to Terry. And I am tired of the shenanigans that have gone on throughout this process. I'm tired of, one person who actually ran in this position being attacked in every which way she possibly could be. I'm tired of the media being sent after her. I'm tired of it. And frankly, that seat needs to go back to the voters. We don't have the right to appoint anybody. I want to know, of the three of you, how many of you were actually appointed the first time you were on this board?
I was.
Okay, you were? How about you, Ms. Grona? Were you appointed the first time?
No, ma'am, I was elected.
Okay, how about you?
I was elected.
You were elected, okay.
Elected.
That position, you guys have held your positions for a very long time. And you gave your communities the opportunity to speak their voices about you and who they wanted to represent them. We played these games during this process. We missed an opportunity to, allow the people to decide in November. This issue could have been decided already in November during that election process. I feel like I would rather that seat stay open and allow the voters to decide than to just appoint somebody into that position. I feel like it's their right to make their choices. And I don't think at this point that the process should be at all tainted by appointing someone and giving that person an advantage during the election cycle, because they would say, well, we allowed, as a board corporate, we allowed that seat to be filled because I filled out a paper and, it took me 15 minutes to fill out the paper. I went through a couple of interview processes. I really don't deserve to sit here, but they appointed me. I don't think that's right. So I personally move to
Well,
put this,
We
Well,
have a motion
there's
on
a
the
motion
table.
on the
now,
table.
And I don't know
but
what.
I don't
games
feel
you're
that, I don't
referring to.
feel like, the only, and I will keep saying this, that probably until this is resolved by the people, the only person that actually qualifies is the runner-up, who has consequently been slammed in the media over and over again. And how much of this is true? I have no clue. But the voters spoke strongly for her. I think she lost it by 70 votes? But yet, we're supposed to sit here and just install somebody else because they filled out a piece of paper?
Yes, because that's the process that we all agreed to go through.
Actually, that's not the process
Yes,
that
it
we all
was.
agreed to.
We all
And we
voted
all,
for it,
we all
6 to
did it
nothing.
y'all's way. We did
It was
it, and
y'all's
then
way. We-
everything.
6-0, we all agreed.
But the
to do
thing
an
is,
appointment
though,
process.
we've tried
So-
it failed. We keep bringing this up,
Because
and
I
at
think it's
this
important
point,
that we
it's a
put somebody
moot
in that
point.
seat.
It's
We
a
have the
moot point.
ability- We have the ability to appoint somebody to that chair. It's within our right. And I think we're doing a disservice by not even talking about it. So
I think we're doing a
vote the way
disservice,
you
then
wanna
we
vote,
just should
but-
go to the second runner-up, and, and because at least the voters had the opportunity to hear her, to decide.
The voters will, if someone gets appointed, they will have to run in May.
That's right, but we give that person, anybody that we appoint to that seat, we give that person the ability actually to say, oh, I'm already a board member, so vote for me.
They could also fail.
But the thing is, and that person was never, she never was on the ballot for that position. She didn't go block walk. She didn't go do anything to earn the position, whereas the other one did.
And none of those are a requirement for the appointment process.
It doesn't matter. We do not own that seat. We have no right to appoint anybody. That seat belongs to that community.
Can I say something here? Y'all don't mind? If you're still going, no interrupt. Mr. Byer, do you have anything else? Okay. I just want to point out a couple of things. At this point, the only thing I support is going to the voters and letting them decide the representative. A couple of points of reminder. One, back on the September 11th meeting, when I asked the question about what's the plan and timeline, both Mr. Byer and Mrs. Groen acknowledged that it was a stalemate and said, we hope we figure it out, but there was no actual plan and timeline. We missed the window to have somebody sitting in that seat right now for the next 2.5 years by not doing a special. Mr. Byer, I know early on you indicated you were okay with leaving the seat open and the 6 of us would continue to represent the community. It is an important issue, but it wasn't even put on the regular agenda last week, which, once again, that's decided by the board president in coordination with the superintendent. So we could have had this discussion even a couple weeks ago. It's been a month since we've talked about it. We have 5 meetings left, regular meetings and a couple specials. At this point, I think because of the overall amount of time it's taken focus away from the kids. I think it would be in the best interest of this board, this district, and the community to put it to the voters, leave the seat. I think we recognize that there's strong differences of opinion, and we are entitled to our own opinions. But at this point, just put it to the voters. Let's call the special election in May, along with the 4 other regular seats that are open, are up for election as well. And then we can move forward with the district business versus doing this, because we missed the window of opportunity. We're now 4 months into this, and we've only got 5 meetings left. Take out spring break, Christmas, and the holidays, it's 4 months. That's my personal opinion on it, and that's the only thing I support at this point is taking it to the voters.
So with a motion on the table, what is the opposition to somebody like Nan Ritchie filling the seat for the remainder of that? And whether she sinks or swims is on her own merit. And anybody that also wants to run for that seat in May can be out there campaigning tomorrow if they want to, if they really want that seat. And so I would like to understand what the opposition is to having somebody in that seat that can get out there and at least spend the next 5 or 6 months trying to represent the community.
I don't think anybody at this point, like I said, send it to the voters, and it's nothing against Ms. Ritchie in particular. You've already said you can represent the community. That's obviously where I grew up. I know the community well. We all can represent them well.
Sure.
It's not optimal, but at this point, we have lost the advantage, the amount of time and resources to try and spin up an individual who may or may not be here come May. I think we lost the advantage after October. We have now gone past the tipping point, in my opinion, and it's not a valuable use of staff time and resources. We can still function as a board. We're focused on the kids. We have the ability to continue to do our job, and only 2 of the main things we do, the budget and superintendent eval, will not happen until after May anyways. So right now, we're focused on the normal processes going through May 7th, or May 4th, excuse me, is the election day. I'm to the point that we lost our opportunities, in my opinion, to do this. We are now, just the window continues to shrink, and if we leave here with a stalemate, we'll do the same thing in December, and I think we have to call in a special by December 18th by the law to be in the requirement. So at this point, I'm ready to just send it back to the voters. We've said from the beginning, respect the voice of the voters. It's their seat, and that's where I stand on the issue.
So I guess I'm still not necessarily understanding. I mean, I understand what you want to do, but like, what would be the harm in appointing Nan Ritchie to the board right now, tonight, to have somebody in that place that, yes, it takes some time on staff, gets her time to ramp up, but that we would have somebody in that seat for the next 5 or 6 months?
Pick any other name, you could put anybody in that seat. We've had
Okay,
this
so
conversation.
right now, the
I know,
motion
so-
is for Nan Ritchie.
I understand. I want it sent to the voters. I think nobody at this point, none of the 4, none of the other names, I'm ready to send it back to the voters so that we can focus on board business. None of them. At this point, we've lost the window of opportunity, in my opinion, and that was a failure on our part because we didn't have a set timeline and plan. So none of them, including Ms. Ritchie, but any of them at this point. That's my perspective on it.
I agree. At this point, it really, none of them. The voters need their voice.
Well,
And
I'm
we
prepared to-
lost our opportunity. People on the board dug in their heels, didn't want to send it to the voters, said, no, absolutely not. The voters have no voice. So now this is where we are at.
Correct. And there's a
And
motion on
we,
the table.
and this is where we're going to stay until.
I'll call the question then. Sorry,
Yeah.
oh, you
No,
finished.
you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second for Ms. Ritchie. Is there any more discussion?
Question's been called. We can't.
Oh,
Mr. Hilliard called the question. He shut down discussion.
okay. So, we need to vote. All those in favor say aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed?
Okay, the motion is denied. Is there,
I have a motion, Madam President.
okay,
I move to declare a special election for the SMD2 vacancy in May of 2024, along with the 4 regularly scheduled SMD 1, 4, 5, and 6 elections.
I second.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that motion. What's the,
I'm-
what was that again?
Declare a special election for the SMD2 vacancy in May of 2024.
Okay, that's
That'll be the
happening
regular-
anyway.
well, it
It'll
has
isn't
to
it?
go to a special election.
It-
But
that
we,
happens
I believe we
anyway.
have to actually declare it by, I think we actually have to by law declare it.
Defaults.
It would be, it would be called in, I believe, February after, can't remember when Ms. Caldwell has to call the election. It may have been in January when you have to
I
tell how many
believe 30 days
seats.
prior we have to do, which would be Monday, December 18th. Double check the calendar on that, but I believe by law, you have to do 30 days prior to the opening of the candidate filing. I
But
thought
that-
we, the board, have to declare the special. I could be wrong, but I thought we had to declare the special.
Before we have, take a vote on a motion like that, can we get a legal opinion? Because I would hate to vote on something that is not either required or is legal.
Yes. Do we want to adjourn into executive session and call Mr. Lopez?
I don't see why we couldn't call him out here in public, Madam President. I mean, he can either tell us we can or we can't. I don't think that this needs to be an executive, in my opinion. Because we're talking about a
I think
position.
legal should be an executive session, though, shouldn't it?
He briefs us out here. I don't think, we're talking about a position and in the law, when you have to file it, he speaks to us publicly on many matters. We're talking about the process, not about an individual.
The question that you want me to ask is, when do we have to call the special election?
Yes, ma'am. Is there the set date? Because my understanding was 30 days prior to the candidate filings, which is mid-January, I think is when the window opens.
Hey, it's Shannon. Are you in the building by chance? Okay. So we are trying to determine if we have to make a motion to call a special election for District 2, or does it automatically fall to the election? It's included in that when we call for that. And do you know when we declare those? Is that in December? Okay, so it is just included. We do not have to make a motion to do that. Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, bye. We do not have to do that. We can as a board, but it is included in the packet, and so whenever Ms. Caldwell calls for the election, which he doesn't know exactly what the timeline is, she would have that through the Secretary of State. It will be included when she calls for that
By
election.
default, they have to include a special even if we don't vote on it. Okay?
That's what Mr. Lopez just told me.
I
But
would-
if you would like to make a motion, he said we can, if you would like to do that.
I believe my motion is standing. I would like to just do this so we can get clarity on the situation and move forward. I think I already made the motion, she seconded
I
it.
second it.
Okay? Is there any discussion?
So just for clarification, this is an unnecessary motion because it's already an automatic,
It will automatically
Circumstance.
go to May.
okay,
This seat has to be included in May.
right, okay. So we don't need this motion?
That is
Other-
correct.
Okay,
It's my
you.
understanding that the seat would automatically be included in May,
Yes.
whether we make an appointment or not.
Correct.
I think this motion helps to clarify, settle, and get us moving forward on board business.
I agree. We need to just stop, that we're done with this. It keeps being brought up, we keep going back to the stalemate, and, enough is enough. And the attacks need to stop.
I can't control the attacks on Ms. Klein or any other candidate. What I can do is have somebody appointed to that seat tonight, if we really
Actually,
wanted to.
no, we're not going to appoint somebody to that seat. We've already made that, decision. It keeps being brought up. We're at a stalemate. The voters need to decide. They should have been allowed to decide in November. We wouldn't be having this discussion had the voters been given their voices. And that seat belongs to those voters. And, the playtime is over. This needs to stop. And,
What
frankly,
need-
this
what
discussion
exactly
has
needs to
gotten old.
stop? You keep saying
It's because you
games
keep
and-
bringing this back.
'cause
and
I'm
it
trying
keeps-
to get
it's a
somebody in that
stalemate
seat.
over and over again. And, and frankly, we keep saying it needs to go back to the voters. The voters have the right to that seat.
Right.
And they will
And they
have
will.
it in May. I think the
Exactly,
point is
and that's what
trying
needs to, and at this point, it needs to go strictly to the voters. They need to be the ones to decide about this, not us.
Can you
Okay.
help me understand then why it is within our realm of duties that we can appoint someone and therefore have a single-member District 2 representative sitting at the table for the next few months? And why is there such a strong objection to giving that community a voice at the table? That bothers me a lot, that they don't have a voice here. Not that all the rest of us won't work to represent that area in this vacancy, but it seems to me a simple solution to have someone at the table with us and have 7 up here. We could be facing several months of stalemate votes if this continues like it has tonight.
Mrs.
And
Yu, if
that
we're focused
part's
on,
very sad to me.
if we're focused on the kids and the business of the district,
And
I don't
that
see
that
stalemate. I
is
don't see.
exactly what I'm
I don't see,
focusing on.
I don't see the stalemate set with all the other things we deal with on a day-to-day issue. This particular issue.
I do, I
well,
do.
You think we're gonna have stalemates on
I
doing
think
what's
it-
best for the kids? I don't think we will.
I
we're
think that
pretty.
this is something that is right for our children, is to have their voice at this table.
Then
And-
why don't we just go ahead and put the second and runner-up, since you want somebody in that seat? You guys don't like her, and that's, and I get it. But she actually got out there and she ran, and she almost won that race.
The majority of the voters in that single-member district did not support Ms. Klein.
That's not what came into.
62% did not support her. They supported the other candidates. So I don't feel.
It was a split vote.
I feel that that is disrespectful to those 62% that did not support her. So we have the option, we have the ability to put someone neutral in the position now so that District 2 can have a voice for the next few months. I don't see that sitting at this table gives anyone an advantage or a disadvantage in an upcoming election. It can work against you, it can work for you. There are people who will not vote for someone only because they are a sitting candidate and don't think that any re-electing is the correct thing to do. So I don't think that gives her an advantage if she's sitting here, if she decides to run in May.
Can we call the question, please?
All right,
And I'm
so-
sorry, I think I missed it earlier, but I believe when there is a call the question, that also has to have a second and a majority. And I'm
think you
so
may- I think you
sorry,
may
I
actually
believe I
be-
missed that
I think you
earlier,
may be correct,
that one
Madam.
person can't.
I
Okay.
think that's fair.
So and I
Okay,
would
so
have
is
to pull
there a
out
s-
Roberts and double check it.
Is
That's
there
the
a
first call.
second for the, call the question?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. All right, so the motion on the table is to call a special election, and there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. The motion doesn't carry. Is there anything else? All right, item 8, adjournment, and the time is 6:43.